Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. This year marks 10 years that my family and I have lived in the south of France, and so today I wanted to do a kind of a Q&A on some of the most popular questions we've been asked over the last 10 years. So let's jump right in. So question number one is, do you still love living in France after 10 years? And the answer is a big yes. For us personally, it was quite a slow burn moving to France. It takes time to feel comfortable somewhere and feel homely somewhere and for things to kind of all come into place. And so 10 years has passed really quick. And I think with each year that goes past, and now especially because we had our children in France, and so their kind of cycle of their life has started with schools and things now, that has just sort of made us fall in love with France all over again in a way, because we're seeing it in a different dimension, kind of through their eyes, through our eyes as a family rather than just as a couple when we moved to France 10 years ago. And that's of course not saying that there's not really hard bits still and that we don't miss our family and friends and things, but do we still love France? We absolutely do. It's our home. Okay, second question is, what do I miss most about the UK? And that would definitely be friends and family. It doesn't make it any easier really being away, for living away for 10 years. I think you kind of put systems and routines in place and kind of coping mechanisms, and you get into a routine, but it doesn't make it any easier. So definitely friends and family. And then if I can just add another one on as well, I think on our hard days in France, I think the complete sort of familiarity of your home country. You can sometimes miss it when maybe you're tired, things aren't going well, and then on top of that maybe you have to explain yourself in French and you haven't quite said it right, and there's maybe a misunderstanding, or you don't quite know what to do in that situation, whereas you think, oh, in the UK I would do this. That's probably something else. The next question I get asked quite a lot is France cheaper than the UK? I think this is completely dependent, isn't it, where you live in France and where your home was in the UK and kind of how your life is set up. In terms of the Languedoc and house prices, they're certainly a lot more affordable, I would say, kind of blanket price than in the UK. We live in a wine producing region, so the wine is very good. There's a joke that they say we get paid in sunshine and wine in the south of France, and it is true. In terms of food and things, it's been really interesting actually to see it kind of change over the 10 years, because there'd be stuff we would maybe buy in the UK and bring over, or stuff that we thought, oh, we're getting a good price in these different places, but it's definitely all changed. I would say, I would probably say food is similar now. Again, it depends where you're buying your food. I do think the UK still has a lot of kind of shops like Lidl and maybe Tesco and Asda. I think you can probably get some really good deals on certain products there. But then here you do have kind of like a freshness and a quality, and you can kind of buy in bulk in some areas. We know that France has high social security and tax rates, and you do see that coming back to you when you have kind of family life here, or a trip to the hospital or things like that you're essentially kind of paying into. Crèche, so your nursery, and then food and things like that, and activities are very good prices compared to what I hear friends paying in the UK. But I think kind of water and electricity and tariffs like that, it all seems quite similar to different people we know dotted about the UK. Another question we get asked, or we used to get asked a bit more at the start, was what's the biggest culture shock when you moved, and what is still the biggest culture shock, or what was? This is a tricky one because I think there are a lot of subtle things that creep up, and again, because we've been here 10 years, I probably don't notice them as much now. I would definitely say something that still stands out to me is the food and the lunches and the dinners. So the pause at lunchtime, a proper lunch break, how your food is enjoyed, and the fact that things close. There's no point trying to phone somebody up at 12:30, they'll be having their lunch. Oh, and actually, the other thing, it's the school holidays at the moment here, and I had a real kind of faux pas. I completely forgot it was a Monday, and I said to my daughters, oh, let's go to the slightly bigger library in a bigger town. And then, of course, as we were walking towards it and it looked all shut up, I thought, of course, it's a Monday. So Mondays being quieter days here and things closing on a Monday, that caught me out 10 years on. And even my eldest was like, I thought it would be. It's a Monday. I thought, oh, I didn't see it. So probably the big the lunch breaks and the Mondays still catch me out. Another question is, how good is my French? So yeah, it's good. I think as well, I think it depends the kind of person you are as well. I'm just not a very confident person in these kind of things. So, but on paper, yes, my French is good. We've lived here 10 years. I've had our girls here. I've worked for some French companies. We're integrated and things. I do think it's important that one of you is learning at least, and it's not even that you have to be super fluent. It's more, it needs to match what you're trying to achieve. So, for example, the work I do is still in English. I am not at the stage where I feel that I can work in French in kind of creative writing content. Whereas having a meeting at the school about my child or whatever, I feel confident in that. So I think it's what you're trying to achieve. I think that's really important to match up how you want to be with your level. And ultimately, your experience is just going to be so much nicer and so much more kind of authentic if you speak the language of the country you're in, or at least if you're trying. I also get asked if I've made French friends. Yes, I have. We've got a lovely group of people here around us that are kind of French and English families, so a bit like us, that kind of understand what you're going through when you move country. And so they're almost like a bit more kind of family in a way, like family friends. And then especially since moving to a slightly smaller place, and having your children at school, it's that time of life that is easier to meet people because you're seeing them daily and interacting with them and helping out in that way. But even just in the sense of like neighbourly relations, everybody knows each other really in our village, and it's just a really lovely community feeling. Another question I get asked is, what is it like raising children in France? We love it. I love it personally. I think one of the things is that I haven't raised children in the UK. I think that really helps because obviously I was raised in the UK, my husband was raised in the UK, but I've never had that experience. And I do think something that's really hard is when you've maybe had a bit of one kind of life and then you move, because you're constantly comparing, and that's really hard, isn't it? And we end up just being really hard on ourselves and wondering why something isn't a certain way. I've never had that. We've never had that. We moved to France before we had our children, and so I've just been going with the flow. I've been dealing with each situation completely kind of blank sheet of paper, and going a lot by kind of gut feelings and how we want to do things as a family. What happens to the south of France in the wintertime? So obviously in the summer, people at the beach, markets, everybody's outside. It's quite easy to imagine what that looks like. But then the winter comes and it does get a bit colder, shutters close. You can sometimes walk around, certainly our village, but lots of villages here, not see one person, not even see kind of windows alight because they're behind their shutters. So what happens is it really kind of ghost town. And certainly when I used to come to France, when we didn't live here, that's what I thought. You really do need to live here to know the life that is still living behind the shutters and in snug places in the wintertime. And so, yes, of course, it's a lot quieter. We live quite coastally, and so, of course, the beaches will be pretty much empty. There'll only be a few cafes open. It won't have the choice that there was in the summer. Everything gets pared down. But, of course, there's still life there. There's the locals. And we live in quite a small village, and the amount of life there is here all year round just shows what it's actually like, that they're even in these kind of medium towns where you drive through and it can look really quiet. It's just because everybody's congregating somewhere a bit more snug. They're in the salle de fête, they're in their kind of municipal halls doing activities. It's not kind of out on the street in front of you, but it's still there, it's still happening. France is really big on associations, so being part of a club, and these run all year round. They're not just for the summertime. And we've got paddle courts near us. The paddle courts are always full, summer or winter. Our kind of municipal halls are always full, summer or winter, actually more full in the winter. The activities kind of close down a bit more in the summer. So of course it's different. It's not quite as bustly in an obvious sense, but life still goes on, and actually the calm is really beautiful after the busy summer anyway. And your local communities and your local friends and everything, they're still there, we're still here. Okay, the next question I get asked sometimes is, okay, you love France so much, tell me something you don't like about it. There's not much really. I would say something that I've noticed over the years, and there might even be a word for it, you have to tell me if you're French and you're watching. There seems to be a bit of this cultural kind of a battle when you do things. So kind of, again, I hate to say the word bureaucracy, but kind of admin tasks or signing up for things, or in that category, it's a bit of a battle. And it's kind of just expected to be, and you battle through it. And a lot of the times in situations I've been told no for something, and then within minutes it's 360 and, oh yes, actually you can have that slot, or we do have one available. And I just think, why didn't you just say yes at the start? But I do think it's something cultural, and you do just have to go into things a little bit thick-skinned and a bit kind of like, look, this is how it is, and just, you know. But sometimes that gets a bit tiring, I think, probably because we're not as apt at maybe knowing the routes we're meant to be taking with certain tasks anyway. So by the time you've got to nearly finishing something, you think, oh, it's going to be a bit of a battle now, I just wish it wasn't. So that's probably, that'll be my answer for that one. Okay, next question, and I love this question, is, do I feel French after 10 years of living in France? I love that question, it's so multi-layered. Yes and no. And if I'm honest, that puts you, I spoke about it in another video, I'll link it here if I can. It puts you in a grey zone. So in a lot of ways, I do now feel quite French. And so therefore I don't feel British in some ways. And in other ways, I still feel very British and therefore can't be French. I can't imagine that changing over even more time, because what I've sort of realised in these 10 years is how to kind of be at peace with whoever you are. It's kind of an irritating answer, but yeah, in some instances I feel quite French, and in some not. A question you see popping up, I think it's quite a popular question at the moment, but what do I wish I'd known before moving to France? Nothing really. I don't think you can, personally, I don't think you can live like that, because everything just becomes, as soon as you've done something, it just interweaves into your life, doesn't it? And it becomes your story and how you've got somewhere. And I mean, when we first moved to France, we moved to this apartment, and we didn't know anything about renovating. And so, yes, I suppose I wish I'd known more. Maybe, you know, you could say, oh, we wish you'd known more kind of DIY skills, so we didn't spend so long doing stupid things with like bamboo sticks instead of tools and all sorts of things we were doing when we first moved here. But, you know, you look back now and you laugh at it, and it was part of the experience. I don't know. I think we've been lucky in that we've had no big sort of disasters or big, you know, we had the COVID years here, which were tough, but nothing sort of dramatically has gone wrong so that you say, gosh, I wish I'd known that. And I appreciate that if that is the situation. But no, I just think it all makes up your life, doesn't it? And so we can't preempt. We don't have hindsight. That's the beauty of we're all kind of linked by that. We are literally reacting and preparing a little bit, but kind of living life as we see fit at the time. And I think that there is a real beauty to that if we can kind of let go, have a slight release of the control element. Another question is, what has France taught me? Which I really love this question. I think it's kind of taught me to go back to basics. And I think that was probably because before we moved to France, we were living in London, quite central London, working quite kind of London-y jobs. And so life feels very different in a big city and at that time of life. And so I think it was a timely thing as well. But I think France has just sort of taught me to reevaluate and then live what is really important in life, which essentially for me and for us as a family are the small things, family and friends, lovely moments, a kind of a calmness in life. And that has been a complete joy, really, one of the joys of living in France and in this area of France. We're not far from the sea. It's quite an undiscovered area of the south of France, and we all say when we get together with friends, this is the luxury, is living here, is being part of this life, and so all those other things aren't really needed. Finally, what would be my one piece of advice for anyone who's thinking about moving to France? One piece is hard, isn't it? There's quite a few, because you learn from a lot of the mistakes you make. But do you know what? I would probably, if I could only say one thing, I would go back to something that someone told me, and it's that France isn't the answer. And what they meant by that is that it's not going to solve all your problems. It's going to create a lot of new ones. It will solve a lot too. But I mean that you have to come level-headed. Well, thank you so much for watching my video. Please do subscribe to my channel and like the content if it's interesting to you. I do lots of different videos, really, from kind of daily life to exploring to these kind of more sitting down chatting ones. So do go and have a browse of the videos I've done, and as ever, see you really soon. Bisous and à bientôt.